Okay.
Hello, Dorothy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Oops, sorry. I'm just throwing stuff around here. Morning. Hello, Hamid.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Not bad, not bad.
Good crowd. It's great. Okay, I think that's everyone that's in the room now, and so I'm actually just going to change my name first so that you can see. Good morning, everyone, or good morning. I feel like maybe I want to start the day over, I guess. I'm not sure. But hello, everyone. My name is Dorothy Berker. I am the Development and Communications Manager with KCR Community Resources. And I just really like to start our meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that that I am in the traditional unceded territory of the Seals Okanagan people. And I'd also welcome you to put in the chat the territory that you are joining us from, if you would like. My name again is Dorothy, and I identify as she, her, and it's going to be my pleasure to work through this workshop with you today. And I'm going to be honest right away in letting you know that I wasn't sure. I thought we were going one way with our direction today, and then I think I decided we would go a different way. So we're going to try and see a little bit how things go tonight so that I can try and be the best support for you in the work that you're doing in your area. I just wanted to also let you know that we are recording this session, and that is to help future people, if they wanted to just be able to, if they weren't able to join us tonight, then they can get the recording on our website and be able to learn from the information that you and I will be sharing tonight. And I say you will be sharing because I'm hoping that you will share your information and knowledge as well. I'm going to just I'm in my office, which is also a sewing room. And I dropped a package of zippers. Sorry that my dog wants to chew up. She loves chewing on things, and so thank you for allowing me to just go rescue her and them the zippers from her. Okay. I'm going to share a presentation in a minute, but what I'd really like to do is do a little bit of a check-in and welcome with everybody and make sure that I can understand best sort of who's in the room and what issues you might be facing, what issues you want to talk about today, and then make sure that we try and meet that need for you. I'll let you know that for as far as workshops and presentations go, I'm fairly informal. So please know that you can interrupt me at any time and I'll happily take questions while I'm presenting or while we're sharing. Putting things in the chat is a little harder for me because I find myself getting distracted a little bit by the chat. So I'd rather that if it's possible for you to just put your hand up and let me know or just interrupt me, then that would be great. That way I can make certain that I'm not missing anything. Or maybe Azar, if you don't mind helping me maybe with letting me know if somebody has a question.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah,
super.
of course.
Thank you. And yeah, so what I would love to do is we'll do it just popcorn style. Oop. Good. We'll do it popcorn style so that so please don't feel that I need to ask you to do we'll just go do the next person. So when you're ready to introduce yourself, please do so. Let us know where you are from. And what would be great is if you can share a big challenge that you're facing, what needs you're seeing in your organization, and what are the needs of your volunteers. Okay. So is there anybody that would like to start? So I'm just going to ask you to do your name and organization and a big challenge or something that what needs you're seeing in your organization and what are the needs of your volunteers.
I can start.
Sure, that would be great. Thanks, Jody.
Okay. Sorry, I just need to apologize because I forgot my computer at work, and so I'm here on my phone, and I'm trying to figure out how to mute my microphone. But anyway, I'm really sorry. But I am new to the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy. I'm in the Trail area, and I think one challenge that I've only been on the job for 2 weeks, but one challenge is just finding volunteers for our programs, and recruiting volunteers. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to recruit for 2 programs that we're offering.
Okay. We will talk about recruitment then. So I've got a little section on that. And then maybe when we get to that part, Jody, if you don't mind even sharing, we'll use your examples as a way to kind of work through how we might look for somebody in that way then.
Okay.
And what about a need for your volunteers? Are you seeing a specific need there?
I think I'm too new to the job to really, we don't have any volunteers right now. So
Okay.
I haven't met any to ask them their needs yet, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jody.
You're welcome.
Who would like to go next?
Hi, I can go next. My name is Daniela Bruns. I'm a settlement worker with Shuswap Immigrant Services Society. So we work with predominantly newcomers to the area, immigrants, refugees. And I'm considering myself very lucky because we have a lot of volunteers and never seem to have a shortage. We live in an area that has a lot of seniors, so maybe that's what's helping us in that sense. And the only challenge that I come across sometimes is a lot of the people we work with, newcomers, are in shift work. Tim Hortons, their schedules change all the time. And sometimes they would prefer to meet up with our volunteers to learn English via Zoom. So because we have elderly volunteers, a lot of them are not very comfortable doing that. So I guess just the technical know-how is sometimes lacking. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so technical gap. Sounds great. Thank you, Danielle. Danielle or Daniela?
Daniela.
Thank you. Okay, great. Who would like to go next? Allison, and
Yeah,
then
hi.
Amina.
I'm also with CBAL, the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy, and I'm based in Grand Forks on the Sun Heights territory. And yeah, we have a few volunteers. I'm been in this role 1 year, so they were mostly here previous, and for the most part, they're helping out with our English as a second language class. So they're helping in the classroom, and that's really good. But yeah, I think also some one-on-one tutoring with that. And then, yeah, if I could get some other volunteers to help with the tech learning, because there's such a big need in that as well. So yeah, and then I think too, I did have someone with our tech learning. We have a program in the library, and so I had 2 paid staff and 1 volunteer. So it's always tricky to me, that balance of you know, just sort of when and how to navigate that, in terms of, I think if people are willing to volunteer and want that experience, it's great, but it would be nice to know when to navigate, when maybe they should then be transitioning into paid staff, or yeah, I don't know. It's just, that's an interesting dynamic that I'm currently not facing, but I could see sort of in the future. And I know a previous staff was a volunteer and worked their way up to being a staff. So I think the organization is good at promoting that, which is great. But yeah.
So can I just clarify, Allison, the challenge you have is how to do that smoothly, or are you having like of how to promote from within, or are you having an issue of volunteers and staff working side by side?
No, I think more the promoting within, and
Okay.
sort of, I mean, I would love to just be able to hire and pay everybody, but that's not the
Right.
reality. Yeah, I think maybe it's just laying out clearly what the expectations are and for how long, I guess, is probably what I need to
Right.
do with that. So yeah.
Well, you've got it. You've got your answer right there, your
Yeah.
expectations, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. And then Amina, I think you were gonna go. Is that how I correctly pronounce your name?
Amina. It rhymes with
Amina.
stem. Yeah.
Stamina, Amina. Okay, got it. Thank you, Amina.
So yeah, I'm from the Kelowna Islamic Center. Um, I'm the volunteer coordinator in the newcomer assistance program. And yeah, what I thought we were gonna get from this, I was told it was a volunteer training. So what I thought it was like giving volunteers kind of information about boundaries, like how to set boundaries, maybe confidentiality, things like that. But yeah, I'm excited to see what we're gonna learn today.
Okay. I will be honest that I am not prepared to talk about boundaries and ethics and confidentiality, except really very briefly, because I didn't realize that would be an expectation. But I know that Azar can contact me, and we can set up one, and then have that be specifically a topic that people, if that's what people are needing, then I know that we want to be able to support you with that. And we do have great information. I just don't have the slides ready for that.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Great. Who would like to go next? Kim?
Have to find the unmute. It's always a challenge for me. I feel put on the spot then. My name is Kim Weatherall, and I'm with the Columbia Alliance for Literacy. I'm the Community Literacy Outreach Coordinator. And I would say that my challenge is maybe a little bit finding volunteers, but I guess more specifically, we have a local hockey team, and part of their mission is to volunteer in the community. And so, like currently, I'm looking for volunteers for a one-to-one reading program, and they are super keen to do so, but I also know that they might not be super consistent in that they, sometimes get traded or they're injured. And so because they're living away from home, they're going to be leaving. So just, I guess, having that consistency for if they're working with an individual for long periods of time, how that might look as far as scheduling, some ideas around that.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good challenge. And maybe if somebody has some good quick answers, they can think of that as well. And please, for any of these challenges, if your community has come up with a solution or possibly the solution for it all, then do feel like please share, because I'd love to hear the answers to the questions too. So great. Thank you. Hamid?
I'll go next. Yeah, my name is Hamid Butt. I'm representing Kelowna Islamic Center. And in regards of that challenges and opportunities, I think it's when you ask for volunteers, there is people with a good heart want it to be, but the biggest challenge is there how to retain and establish a consistency in there. And it becomes very difficult when you have fly-by kind of a volunteers, not in a negative context, but just that we willing to do this one, but I haven't really seen through that how I will fit it in my commitments and all that. So I think those are the challenges that we see it often, where we get the commitment, but then to retain and make sure that we're actually materializing that time and the commitment is a bit of a challenge there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a great one. I love it. Okay, super. Thank you, Hamid. Joan?
Hi, I'm Joan Exley, and I'm the Literacy Coordinator for the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy in Nelson. And I don't know if I can sort of segment it into challenges and needs. I think I guess my biggest challenge with volunteers is the consistency piece that other people have talked about, because our typical volunteers are often seniors, and then they're there and then they go away for 6 weeks or whatever, and you can't have expectations of a volunteer to be as consistent. But if the capacity of your program, like others have talked about with a reading program in a school where the kids get attached to those seniors and then they're gone. And also just the few of us that are here from Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy worked with very small budgets. And so if a volunteer is away and you have to pay staff to go sub to try to keep that consistency, it's a difficult thing in your budget to try to shore up those gaps. And so and I've tried to have substitute volunteers, but then when they're not called in, they sort of wander to something else. And I guess another thing I've tried over the years to do with volunteers is to create a community within the volunteers by having teas and gatherings or whatever. But it seems like I think I'm really the only one who wants to create that community. Others are just wanting to do their thing and they don't have a need to get together and support each other. So yeah, so that's interesting, because I always think that would be something desirable. So I guess my wondering in this group is just, how do you support your volunteers enough and make sure that they're feeling good and supported. And especially when you're working with volunteers across a number of different programs, it's it can be a lot of your organizational capacity.
Yeah. Thank you, Joan. And I'm going to just warn everybody right now that I'm going to give you some strict instructions. And those are that you need to direct your volunteers a little bit stronger or engage them a little bit more, because I've heard a couple of people say about expectations, managing your expectations, and that's fair. but you can expect a volunteer to show up and to be there just like a paid staff person. In fact, the best volunteer management is around the fact that your paid staff and your volunteer staff are treated the same. They have the same rights, they have the same responsibilities, they have the same commitment to the work that they're doing. And you can ask the same of them. You can ask for their responsibility. What you can't do is overload them so that they just walk away. So it's about managing how much they'll do, because it is their free time and they do want to give it freely and willingly. But please don't go with the theory that I just need a warm body and I need somebody to be there to fill it, because when you go with that idea of leader for volunteer management, it quickly will devolve your volunteer program, because what you want more than anything is really hardworking, really committed, really engaged volunteers. And that when they come to you, they know you have high expectations of them, and they will fulfill those needs, or they will go somewhere else. And so I just want to say that, because I don't want to come across as harsh to you around it, but it's just really important that we value volunteers, but that we know we have expectations of them. And if they don't work out, then they don't work out, and we need to let them go. Because if you continue to have volunteers that aren't properly engaged, they will suck the life out of your volunteer program and make it harder for you to engage and retain other volunteers. The negative impact will explode within your program. I do a board governance boot camp for KCR as well, and it's one of the things that I unfortunately have had through lived experience of. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't ask somebody to sit on my board. I don't want to ask somebody to do something. But the strongest volunteer managers are the ones that are able to say, I need you to do this, and you need to show up. And when you don't, you let people down. And I care about my participants, and I'm not going to let them be let down by somebody who's not reliable or who's not committed to this. And that's you standing up for your participants and your pupils if it's the literacy program. And it doesn't matter if they're older seniors and they want to do those, they want to go on trips. Of course, they're allowed to have a life and they can do that. But it needs to be managed within a system that still serves your participants, because as nonprofit organizations, our goal, our first number one thing is our mission. And if we're not serving our participants and we're not serving our mission, then we're not doing the right thing. And so we just need to be okay with asking and really encouraging people to show up with their commitment full-heartedly for it. So not to pick on anybody or anything. And Joan, I hope you, just because I said it with you, that I hope you don't mean that you don't think I'm speaking only to you, but just because it came up a couple of times.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay, good.
It's interesting. The thing that you've said that really is sort of resonating with me is volunteer program. I've never thought of my volunteers as a program, even though when I count the number of programs that I have volunteers working in, it really is a program. And I think if I treat it more like a program, then I'm going to give it more attention to.
Yeah, and we can be very grateful to our volunteers, but we can have expectations of them, because we're serving participants that need them. And that includes hockey players, even if they do get traded. If you have a relationship with the hockey school, and oh gosh, I know kids love learning from other slightly older kids. They just do. There's nothing like that, right? Like an 8-year-old looking with glowing eyes up at somebody who's 14, 15 and a hockey star to boot. That's lovely. That's wonderful. But they deserve somebody who consistently shows up for them as well. And how you tell your volunteers that, not like the big heavy that I am in saying it, but how you let your volunteers know that is going to be the difference in how they feel like they can disappoint you or not. right? So if Kim, it was you who had the hockey players, right? If you have a relationship with the team, then who's responsible on the team to find a replacement for your hockey player? Because it's not you. It's got to be somebody. If it's the relationship is with the team, then the team needs to find the hockey player that will come. If somebody gets traded, the new person gets put into that position. Because if they're selling it as a program about our kids are going out and doing this as good community will, they have a responsibility to ensure that your participants get the support that they've committed to. Right? Okay. Great. Thank you, John. Thank you. So I still see Michiko and yes, Michiko, do you want to go next?
Thank you, hello everyone, and I apologize in advance for the noise in my background. My kids are around. So my name is Michiko Nelson. I work at South Okanagan Migrant and Community Center, which is a settlement service provider in Okanagan. And my role is I'm one of the volunteer coordinators, and my particular role is to run the mentorship program between local professionals and immigrants who haven't arrived in Canada yet. So my mentorship program is 100% online, either written or virtual calls. The style is free. But anyways, I think my challenge is, even though we have many local, almost all are full-time workers who are motivated to help out the immigrants who are about to move to Canada and settle, and for any job search or any community information advices. I find that even though the volunteer mentors are motivated at first and doing all the registration and orientations, they lose their motivation as time goes by. So it seems like there are only several who are doing the mentoring, who are mentoring the immigrants over and over. Like, there are several mentors who have had a lot of mentees, and there are a lot of mentors who haven't had any. And so that might also connect to the engagement challenges. Yeah, and because the volunteers are working full-time, it might be just that the schedule didn't match. There might be a lot of different reasons to it. But we're trying to have like once 3 months of getting together so that the mentors can know each other and kind of increase the motivation. But we don't have many mentors or volunteer mentors to come to our gathering, both online and in person. So I'm hoping how to keep the motivation and keep the mentors engaged to our program. I think that's one thing that I find as a challenge. Thank you.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, Michiko. We'll be talking about that. So, and I've made a couple of notes just as you've been speaking, and I think we'll address most of these things as we're going through, and I'll try and bring up examples for your specific thing. But if I haven't at the end, by the end, do please just say, hey, you missed out on my point, and I'd like to talk about this, please, because I am completely fallible. I make lots of mistakes, and so I need somebody to remind me sometimes if I've forgotten something. Okay, so I have Hoda, Irina, Ahmed, and a lion or lions. Their dots. Who would like to go? Hi, Hoda.
Hello. As I said, my name is Hoda, and I work with the South Okanagan Immigrant and Community Services here in Penticton in the South Okanagan. And I am the community connection facilitator with them. And I have some volunteers. My challenge maybe is not far from you guys. It's more of the how do you say, consistency. Like sometimes as they come and register and everything, and then we have that 6 months to go away or 4 months to go away. So when you're working with someone for some time, like the rest of the year, and then you can have 4 months off because like it's too cold here to go to you'll go to like Mexico or somewhere, like you cannot tell them no. That's the reality of what's happening here. So I think I set my expectation not to be so high, so I can anticipate interruption and pauses from both sides, from the clients and from actually the mentors itself. And more likely the mentors that I have, they are primarily helping the clients to improve their English. So I don't have like events and stuff like that that they're gonna just come and do the day and just go and come back in a month later. This is the nature of the volunteers I look for. I have a lot of seniors who are willing to help, but maybe there is a little bit of a gap for the electronics, like with the computer, with Zoom, with anything has to do with the computer. Sometimes they shy off. They just want a book and a pen. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. And you might have a disconnect between a younger person who is really a newcomer, but is quite used to WhatsApp and different platforms and things, and then have a senior that's willing to help but isn't. And so you have a bit of a disconnect. You have to try and figure out how to connect that better with them then, right? So
like I have some clients, I wait for maybe a month and a half until I find someone who can maybe Zoom or can be comfortable with the computer for wherever he needs to explore with the person. So
yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Hoda.
Thank you.
Ferdos, is that Fruk?
Yes. My name is Ferdos. I am in Kelowna, and many years I did volunteering, and still I am doing. Mostly individual level, not organization, but I keep to the community Muslims and help them over there. Most important from the point of view of volunteer is that they get impression that they are useful and they are not a nuisance in that organization, and that what they are doing is right and useful and appreciated. This is very important, and you are very right. Volunteers and staff paid, they have the same responsibility almost. And the volunteer should feel the same as the staff responsible for the course of work during the day. And the reason that the volunteers get discouraged and cool off from going to the work, in fact, is that they have no idea what is expected from them. I told some volunteers, just look around, you will find tons of work to do. Don't wait until the staff comes and give you some work. No, you just look around like the staff and find the work, and the work is there. It's just that you have to look for it and go ahead and do it like the staff are doing.
Yeah, go ahead, Firdaus.
So I rather right now volunteer just on my own initiative in the community, not one-to-one, not to the organization, but just know the community and ask them to come and use the resources or get trained or just having conversation towards the English improvement, etc. So that's it.
Thank you, Verdos. We'll touch on a few of those things in our presentation as well. Thank you. And then I have a Lion S and Irina and Ahmed and Kayla. Kayla, you've just joined us, but we're just doing a quick hello and identifying which organization and area we are in, and then also just sharing a challenge that we might have for volunteers or a need that volunteers have.
Oh, well, I can definitely speak to that. Hello,
Perfect.
everybody. Wonderful evening. My name is Kayla Wilson. I'm with CBAL, the Columbian Basin Alliance for Literacy in Kimberly. I'm working with a school full of volunteers to try to meet the needs of every gray zone reader. So a reader that doesn't quite connect with the book. And so I have a variety of volunteers from the ages of 27 to 92, trying to read to these school readers and to try to navigate the needs, and someone's can't make it, and the scheduling and the organization of that is, I'm clumsy at it. So any way to try to streamline that, I would so appreciate any input. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kayla. Okay. Maybe Irina and Ahmed and Lion may not feel comfortable sharing, or Irina.
Yeah, I think I can go next.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Dorothy. Just give me a sec. Hi, Dorothy. This is Talakdar. I'm one of the volunteer from the Kelowna Islamic Center as a newcomer assistant program. So I'm one of the volunteer of them. And also, other than that, if I talk about my other volunteer activities, I mean, I'm also volunteer of Okanagan Transit Alliance. So we're trying to make the transit better for everyone. So, I mean, so if I talk about like my current volunteer experience with the newcomer assistant program, I would say like, we had problem with we had communication problem with the newcomer people because we had a language barrier. So let's say like we couldn't communicate properly with them, but we had the smartphone, so it was not a big deal. And so yeah, I think there is all. Also, by the way, I'm from Bangladesh, so I came Canada this January. So I'm studying in Okanagan College, and this is my first year. So everything's going good, and I'm grateful to be a part of this community, and I'm enjoying my volunteering activities. So, and I used to be continue.
Thank you, Ahmed, and welcome. And I'm glad that you are feeling good about it. And Okanagan College, that's great. Are you doing ESL there, or are you taking a trade program or a business program, or?
Oh, I'm doing the computer science program over there.
Computer science, yeah. You've got a great one there, so wonderful.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. And Irina?
Oh, hi, I'm probably last. I had some technical difficulties. I'm Irina Starozhuk from Kelowna Stands with Ukraine, and our organization based on volunteers. We have no paid staff. So pretty much all topics were covered. how to recruit, how to say no or fire some volunteers. Also, I would be interested to know if there are any tools to to manage scheduling and yeah, kind of scheduling for specific positions. Maybe to outline a little bit, for example, if it's an event, people need it here, here, and here, but in some places you need to do lifting, and some places you need to do cooking, and some places you need to speak English. Is there any tools that available for free to manage volunteers?
Yes.
Including maybe legal part too, because if volunteers and employees are equal in what they're doing, we need a contract, right? We have a volunteer forum, so it's probably equivalent of a contract. Yeah, so what else? Well, volunteer recognition is important. Sometimes I feel like we don't say thank you enough. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds great. Thank you. And then, yes, Rania, I saw you briefly there, and it's nice to see you again. Rania and I used to work together in the same office, and now she's in a different office, but it's great to see you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Rania, we are just sharing a challenge that we might be facing as an with our organization or with volunteers, and then the organization that you're with.
Sure.
Do you want to share? Because you're next. You came in just at the right time.
To share a challenge?
Yeah.
I think my one of the challenges might be in case we are in a situation as a volunteer. I'll talk about two scenes. First of all, if we are in a situation going to do a service, we need to be aware of our safety as a volunteer, and to connect first with the administrator or the manager, and to let them know where we are going and that we are there in that location. And if there is any sense of danger towards the volunteer, they should connect right away with their manager, administrator. But of course, if it is a very high risk, then there is a call for 911, as well as leaving the location.
Right.
The other situation is we are a very small community, and as a volunteer, we might be involved in many different occasions that we might know either the participant or the client. So any piece of information that might lead to the identification of that participant or client should be kept very confidential and private, because even as small as they live by that corner, or they have 3 kids, or they are from this city or country or whatever, might expose that privacy.
So before you came, Rania, we talked a little bit about ethics and boundaries and confidentiality. Those are really big topics, and I think really important topics, and the safety is a big part of that as well. And I'm going to suggest that we have another meeting just to talk about those specifically, but I will at the end, I think, just mention a couple of things. I'm going to start. Did I miss anybody? I don't. Yes, I just wanted to mention that Rania and Foros and Ahmed and Okay, you were told that. Amina, do you want to unmute Amina or? Okay, no, okay. Okay. Okay, so sorry. So a couple of things I want to just let me just gather my thoughts here for a second. There are a few things that I think we will talk about as we talk about orientation and training, engagement and retention, and a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm going to just mention on the ethics and confidentiality and safety part, again, that the theory around volunteerism is very much that whether you are a paid staff or you are a volunteer, your rights and responsibilities are the same. And so that may help you when you're thinking about, do you have a job description for your volunteers? And in that job description, do you outline what their responsibilities are, what your expectations are for them? Because they deserve a job description. And in that job description should be included things around boundaries, ethics, and confidentiality. And especially, I want to just go back to the idea of volunteers think, and they are right, that they are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They want to give back to the community. They want to help people. And so in being good and doing good, sometimes we forget some of the other rules and regulations of life. And we need to remember or be reminded of those regulations of life when we're doing good and being good. Because just because we're doing good and being good doesn't mean we don't have rules, responsibilities, and regulations we need to follow. And just because we don't get a paycheck doesn't mean we don't deserve to give that organization the same amount of value as if you were getting a paycheck. Now, a volunteer in an organization, there has to be a win-win. There has to be, or else you will have a very lopsided relationship within your organization. Because if a volunteer feels like they are getting nothing out of the relationship, then they will not feel satisfied. They will disengage. They will buck your system. They will throw wrenches in your bicycle wheels, right? Yes, Kim.
Just wondering if you could give us a little bit of an example about what you mean by like what they're getting out of it.
Oh, sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. So a volunteer.
Can you just help me understand that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. A volunteer, when they are, it feels good to volunteer. It feels good to give back to the community. And that is my win. And if I don't know that that's my win, then I might start getting a little uppity, or not uppity. I mean, just like a little bit cranky about giving my time freely. But a volunteer needs to recognize that they're getting something out of the relationship. Otherwise, they're not going to stay. So a volunteer needs to be respected. A volunteer has the right to know what their expectations of them are so that they can achieve those things. A sense of achievement and success and busyness is important for volunteers. Sense of connection is huge for volunteerism. And I think it was you, Joan, who mentioned that you thought tea time would be fun and everything, and then were surprised that people didn't want to do it. And I totally am with you. I'm so surprised that they don't want to do tea time. But it does make me think, I know volunteers seek connection. Maybe they like coffee instead. So, and I make that as a joke, but really it's about evaluating some of your program elements to figure out, am I doing what I think would be great, or am I doing something that my volunteers would think would be great? Right? Because the need for connection is absolute in volunteers. The need to feel like they are valued and they're making a difference in life is usually the number one reason that people are volunteering. They have a connection. A lot of people are in literacy. So as an avid reader, as a young girl, I loved nothing more than volunteering at my son's school to help readers, because that was, for me, thinking about when I was a little girl, that was my escape. And that's how I wanted to be able to, I wanted to give that love of reading to another child. But that's totally about me. Right? And volunteers are like that. They are thinking, I want to do what I want to achieve. I want to help somebody speak English because I know how hard it was when I first came. I want to give somebody the love of reading. I want to help somebody exercise because I know how important that is for me. The volunteer is getting something out of that relationship. They have to. The young boys who are doing the hockey, they know that they're playing on a hockey team and they have a responsibility to the community. That's why the hockey team is doing it. They're saying the community supports us. We want to show them we support them. They're getting something out of that. They're building their skills. They're learning how to be around other people. And that's why you can ask of things of them. That's why you can set parameters that are just like a contract of employment. Right? They are getting something out of that relationship. It isn't money, but it is something, and it's something that they value. And when you find that you have a volunteer that isn't feeling valued, or you find a volunteer that isn't getting what they want out of the relationship, that's why they're disengaging. That's why they're not sticking around. Of course, there are things like, sunbirds who want to go south for 3 months. But that's okay. You work that within your contract to say, I know you will be gone during this time. And you have the right as a volunteer coordinator to say, but because you aren't going to be here from December to February or December to March, that means you can't do this program with us, because that's when I need consistency for my participants. Right? So I want to have you as a volunteer. I want to give you a great volunteer experience. But if you can't meet this parameter for my volunteer program, then we need to find you a different job. And the same rule applies in that if the volunteer says, I want to give my time, I want to do something good for the community. And if you can't meet my need for reading to kids, being active, feeling good about myself, hanging out with good people, developing a community and a family of people that I can connect with, then they have the right to say, this is not the right volunteer job for me. And that's okay, right? So we really have to step away from the warm body syndrome and really focus on, I want to look at you, Kayla or Allison or Michiko or anybody, and I want to find the right job for you. But it has to fit within my program. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to call my good friend Joan and tell her, oh my gosh, I've met the most wonderful volunteer and she's in your community. And I think she would be so engaged and wonderful with your program. Matching your volunteer with your jobs and your responsibilities is a key part of what you do. And it's okay to say to them, I don't think you're the right match. It's okay to them to say, I know you want to work with newcomers and I can't give you access to that. So I'm going to call so-and-so at SOICS, at the South Okanagan Immigrant Society, and let them know about your opportunity, because it's about the match. Okay. Any questions? No, okay. I'm going to share my screen with you. Some of it will have, talked about a little bit already as well. Okay, and then I'm just going to make sure I've got my slides up so that I know what I'm telling you guys about. And then I'm going to need you to just interrupt me, please, if you if you have any questions, because I'm going to lose sight of you as well, because I'm going to be looking at this instead. Okay. So. Oh, so yeah, so we're going to talk today, but we did the welcome and check-in. We're going to talk a little bit about orientation and training, engagement and retention, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then I don't think we'll get through leading through change. We've done this. And I'm going to go back to this and just, if you look at, so we talked about what are the biggest challenges you're facing and what needs are you seeing in your organization and what are the needs of your volunteers. And this is the part that I mean about the matching. If you don't see a match for what you need and what your volunteer needs, it's a collaborative phone call to another organization that said, I meant the most wonderful person and you're going to enjoy having them as a volunteer. And being honest with the person that's wanting to volunteer, because it is only going to waste their time and yours if you just think this is the only person that's going to walk through my door and be a part of a volunteer program. And the majority of us live in smaller communities. We've identified that that may mean that we have senior volunteers or we have a limited pool of volunteers that we can draw from. But my bet is going to be that the better you match, the longer they'll stay. And the longer you can have that relationship with that one volunteer, the better off you both will be. Right? So it's not better to just have more people coming through your organization and not staying, because that's hard on your participants and it's hard on the volunteers. And honestly, it's hard on you. So try to fit the match and then let the magic of that match allow for a long-term relationship. And we won't talk about those other things right now. But except to say, how can your current volunteers play a part in a needs assessment? And that is that having ongoing dialogue and communication with your volunteers allows you to be able to share with them, we have a new need or a new opportunity. Or I know you could say, you know, like, Bob, you've been part of our organization for 10 years and you've done this job and you're really great at it. But I think you might be getting a little bit tired of it because you're not coming to coffee as much or something like that. And then say, but I have a new need for a volunteer, and having a new opportunity that you can try and take an existing volunteer into a new opportunity is really valuable. Kim, I think it was you who asked about transitioning from volunteer to paid staff, but also think about the transition from one job to another within your organization. Because for a long-term volunteer, they want to be able to achieve too. They might, like, I know I've interviewed some people, volunteers here at the hospital, and they start in a role as, this person at front reception helping people, but they have their eye on going up the ladder in their volunteer role to a different department or a different thing. Like, it really is a bit like a job promotion, and you're a bit like an HR recruiter, and that you want to make sure that your volunteer is finding enough juice out of the opportunity that they want to stay engaged with it. So orientation and training. Orientation is critical and training is critical. It's not a nice to do. It's not a nice to have. You have to make the time for it, because that's when you're going to figure out whether or not it's a good match for you or whether it's a good match for the volunteer. And it's also the best time for somebody to realize, I get why this organization needs me here. And they're going to double down on their commitment to that organization, because when you connect them to your mission and to what you're doing and what you're achieving, whether it's childhood literacy, it's settlement of newcomers, anything like that. When somebody gets why they're doing it, that's when they're going to be engaged more. And they're going to make choices about, yeah, I do like to go south, or I do like to have my free time, but I really believe in the mission of what this organization is doing. I really believe I am adding value and having impact. And how do you share your impact, their impact with them? Do you share it? Do you think about telling them that? So saying thank you to them is important, but telling them the difference they're making in the world is critical. So if you have somebody who has had a lot of success all of a sudden, or has reached another level in their ESL levels, you know, I'm not sure what they're, the TOEFL levels or whatever they're called, you know, if somebody has achieved that, are you letting their volunteer know, you know, your work is having an impact, and this person has, and making sure that it's okay for you to share this information. You know, ask your participant, can I share with your volunteer that they've achieved this level or not? So just think about that. Don't just say thank you. Saying thank you is important, and it's the number one reason people volunteer and continue to stick around. But helping them to see the impact that they're making is critical. So at the orientation and training, you want to really involve everybody in the mission of your organization. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how are they going to be a part of it? How are they going to make the difference in the community? And when you've engaged them with that, then you've got them hooked, and you're going to keep them on the line by making sure you continue to give them the information of how they're continuing to make an impact. Tell them about your organization. Tell them about what's happening. Tell them about the programs. If people feel too much like a commodity, they're just coming in, they're doing the work, and they're leaving, then they get disengaged. But when they know, oh, I know the ins and outs of this organization, I know the backstory of stuff, then they're engaged. They want to be there. They want to be able to make that, continue to make that difference. For your orientation, it's really important, and I'm trying to remember where I was thinking about this from the learning style, but about how somebody, I think it was Michiko, when you were talking about the mentorship programs and the online and things, but recognizing that people have different learning styles, right? And so that could be when you're looking at seniors, and they might have a digital gap in how they're able to help and support some of the participants. But are you doing a training session with them? Are you able to offer a training session for online Zoom or other things? You know, is there something that they not only have the skills then, or they learn the skills to support their participants better, but they also take those skills into their everyday life, and that's another win for them. Michiko, it looks like you want to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank you for how you directed. We actually do training about this online we have a certain online platform where participants can communicate. It's only written communication, but if they want to do like a virtual, like Zoom calls, they have to arrange and set up by themselves, which there's a challenge of time zones, etc. But I've never done the training on how to do the virtual calls, or what the manners you might want to be careful of, or I only did the training for how to use the platform, or other emails and stuff, but haven't thought of those particularly the technical part. So
yeah,
thank you for
it can be really helpful for them, right? And it empowers them to because now they can let their grandkids know, hey, I Zoomed today. You know, like if they're seniors that are in that position, they do they're still completely capable of learning. And they just may not have somebody that's taking the time to teach them in the same way. I think, who's from Revelstoke? Is it Joan? Was it you? Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm going to try and just remember, because their Okanagan College may offer some, or the College of the Rockies may offer some senior learning too. And it's not necessarily even that you need to always do the in-service learning for your volunteers, but you can recommend it to them and say, you know what, for this program that I need you to be a part of, I really need you to have some computer skills. And if you go to the library, or you go to in your community, whoever is offering, and there are like New Horizons for Seniors. I know KCR has received some funding in the past to do digital literacy training for seniors, right? Because during the pandemic, that was such a huge thing, that seniors were so isolated and didn't know how to use tools that allow us to connect. So if you do an in-service with your volunteers, say we're going to do a lunch and learn, and we're going to do learn how to use these platforms, and bring in some kids from the high school to teach those classes for you. Right, show them how to do that and engage them in it. And it will require repetition. So that's you need to manage your expectations in it too. It can't just be they're going to learn it one time and then they'll never need a handheld again with digital stuff. But it's worth the investment of putting that in, because it builds your volunteers up. It allows them to have skills that they can really take out into the world and feels so connected to them. So remembering that people have different learning styles, whether that's auditory, that's you can hear instructions really well. If you have people who are learning English as a second language and you're teaching in English, that's going to be a harder way for them to understand. You know, then thinking about how do our training materials, how do I incorporate visual things into my training material so that it's easier for somebody if they are speak a different first language, then how do they learn that way? Some people just need to they need to touch, or they need to do the things. So getting them on a computer, putting a bank of computers up and having them do some tasks on it, call each other up, anything like that, where they actually get to practice and do those things, that can be really effective. And then multimodal just means that most of us can learn one or two ways. And so things that have both a visual and a kinesthetic, like where we do the movement and things, a visual and kinesthetic way, that really cements the learning for them. So when people feel properly trained, they know what they're doing, they understand what their purpose is, they feel engaged. And then they don't want to leave as much, and they don't want to not do as good a job as they can. So considering that, okay. Any questions? No. Sorry, I'm trying to bring you back up so I can see you if anybody's questions. In your orientation, you would also explain the relationship of what people, of volunteers to your organizations, and that includes other staff, letting them know that they are as valued as other people who are there in a paid position, letting your staff members, your fellow staff members, know that the volunteers are critical to your mission, and so you need them there to do that work as well, and that they need the respect to respect them for that too. And then the training provides specifics about how they do the job. What are the nuts and bolts of how they need to do the work that you're asking them to do? The types of orientation, the cause, why should I join this organization? And that volunteer is somebody who's not very specific necessarily about what job they want to do. They just want to join your organization. They know the organization is great. They believe in your purpose, And so they're happy to do whatever they like. And it could be there are volunteers who want to just fly in and fly out, as somebody said, they come in and do that. But recognizing that's what they want means that you don't give them a job that needs consistency and showing up every day, every week. Right? So that's your job, is to know that person is a hardworking event person. They will come in, they will work like a dog, they will get everything done, and then they're going to go. And you won't see them again for months. Don't give that person the weekly show up and do something in the office job. Don't give that person the responsibility of showing up to be with participants, because they just want to be there and get out. And then don't give the person who's likes structure, who likes having a schedule, who knows what's going to happen. When you have that person, you go, oh, this is the person I need for Wednesday morning literacy class. Right? That's the one that I'm going to put into that position. System orientation is telling them how will they be volunteering? Who will they be engaging with? What are their relationships like? For some people, it's all about they get to be the boss. And for some people, it's I want to have somebody boss me around. Knowing who they are and putting them in the right position is what you need to do best. And the social orientation is how they fit in, showing them the hierarchy, showing them all about the organization, show them who is the executive director, who is the lead volunteer, who's the chair of the board, all of those kinds of things just helps engage them in your mission and your organization. And then the position. So the position description is really important, and it's important for them to be able to achieve success, and for you to hold them accountable to those position directions as well. I'm going to share these slides with you, so then you can just have these here. I don't think I need to explain these things, but these are just things you want to include in the content of the orientation. And the training should happen immediately or as part of the orientation. And it can be done in person or online, but it's important that once you've kind of got them engaged with the orientation, that you do that training right away. Part of the advantage of doing the training with them as well is you get to see who they are. You get to know them, they get to know the program, they get to know the position. It helps to establish the expectations, it develops skills. You can ensure the volunteer is the proper fit, and you get to really understand the volunteer and see them a little bit more than just what they've applied for on the standard application. And yeah, it's your first chance to really build the relationship with them. So it's an important tool. In a training session, volunteers will want to have these questions answered. What to do, how to do it, what not to do, and what to do in an emergency. And the what not to do is really important. Somebody mentioned about legal responsibilities, and it's a really good point. We have done legal responsibility of volunteers, because as an organization, you are legally responsible for your volunteers. So their actions you can be held accountable for. Another reason to make sure that you are doing the training and orientation properly, as well as the reference checks and things like that. But you are legally responsible for what your volunteer does. So you want to make sure that you've trained them properly so that they don't do something you don't want them to do, or that they can't do. Okay. So this evaluation, or the evaluation is really important when it comes to the engagement piece of it. Because if you don't do an evaluation on your volunteer, they may be continuing to do something that could put your organization in harm's way. They could be doing a disservice to the participant. They could be really in the wrong fit. And if you're not doing that evaluation, then you don't know that. And sometimes people may think, I'm just so grateful because this good-hearted person wants to help me and do good for the community, and I don't have the right to tell them they're not doing it right, or I don't have the right to tell them that I want them to do it this way. But that's not right. It is imperative that you treat your volunteer as somebody who has responsibility and that you need them, that you have expectations of them. And so that means you do need to evaluate them just like you would any employee. And an evaluation doesn't have to be a negative thing. An evaluation is your opportunity to connect with that volunteer, to have a conversation and say, how's it going? What are you finding? Because what you'll find in that conversation is not only how they're feeling about their work, but you may find out really valuable things about your program that you did not know. You may be finding out something like this mentorship relationship doesn't work online, or you may find out this mentorship relationship is only sustainable for 2 months. Otherwise, people get bored and they disengage. But if you're not doing the evaluation, you don't know at what point the disengagement happens, or if it happens with everybody. Right? So you do need to do the evaluation to help you figure out how the program can get stronger. So that the next volunteer, you're not putting in the same position and having the same problem take them out. Because you've evaluated the program, you've looked at it and said, I found the mistake, or I found the issue that the disconnect can happen. And this is how I'm going to change the program then. So evaluation is a really positive thing for your organization and for your relationship with your volunteer. And you can do anonymous feedback as well as in-person. Michiko.
Yeah, thank you, Dorothy. I have a question regarding the evaluation. So with specifically for my mentoring program, it was originally created by an organization in Ontario. So they're like a core organization who deliver the mentorship program, and we are their partner organization. Anyways, so they do like a lot of surveys for both mentors and mentees before the program and after the program, and then depends, but focus group interviews, etc. And so because it takes a lot of time, I heard from the mentors, I feel a little bad for asking further from our side. And unfortunately, the result of the survey that is held by this organization in Ontario are not shared for a very long time. I was just told that it takes months, so we don't know. And this program is new, and so we don't know if it's like I would ask when I meet them in person at the gathering, or when I have a chance, I would casually ask, chat, and hear some feedback. But I'm sure it would be better if we have like organized survey or evaluation specific I don't know meeting or interview or some sort where we can evaluate how we're doing, good or bad, or what to improve. Do you have any suggestion when there's already this survey that are done to the volunteers, and we don't want to put too much time constraint, and I don't know how to.
Yeah, so I would be really honest and upfront with them, Michiko. I would say, I know you're doing this survey with the larger organization, but I don't get that feedback until a few months from now, and I want to hear from you. Let's go for coffee. Let's have a discussion. You're asking them to commit their time. And if you're not willing to ask them to commit a little bit more time to tell you how it's going, you run the risk of them being really unhappy and you don't know it, and then they leave. Right? I think you would be better off saying to them, I'd love to get your feedback. I heard a little bit of a chat. I'd like to dig in deeper with it. And so can we set up a coffee? Or do you feel like you would like to meet over Zoom? Like, make yourself available to them to share that information with you, because it's going to give you gold.
Thank you so much.
And it will build your relationship. Great. Great question. Thank you. And yeah, and remember that training is ongoing, right? It's Joan, with the T, like the T, I do understand sometimes volunteers think, I just want to be busy. I want to get stuff done. So don't ask me to come and have tea, because I have my boys for doing that every Tuesday morning, right? But are you offering them something that they see value in? So is there a learning component that you can bring to it? Is there more than a social thing? Because for the really get in, get out and do stuff volunteers, and I know those ones as well, you know, that's who they are. So they don't necessarily want to have a coffee clutch with you, but it doesn't mean that you can offer them engagement and connection, because I still think they want that. Otherwise they wouldn't be volunteering. And so just find what is the hook for them. And it could be a survey. It could be an evaluation that you send out to them to ask them how to do that. How do they want to be engaged with you? Okay. So evaluation and training are ongoing. And you also want to think about volunteers. If you've had volunteers for a very long time, you might start engaging them in a higher level where they're doing some of the training with other volunteers. Or there might be orientating new volunteers that are coming on. Make sure in that process as well that you're still checking to make sure that they're doing things the way you would like them done for your organization. Because sometimes volunteers start turning corners a little bit, and not volunteers, everybody does. You know, in work, everybody starts doing things a little bit their own way and everything. And so if you have somebody in charge of doing the orientation or the evaluation or the training for other volunteers, do make sure that they're still following the guidelines that your organization has established. And that's where a volunteer handbook can be really helpful. And that's also for disciplinary reasons. It's really important that you have a volunteer handbook so that you can go back to it and say, here, this is what I mean by this. This is why this is important. Okay. I know we have a really diverse group here, but I did want to just talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion a little bit, because I believe it so very strongly in this. And recognizing a little bit about what diversity, equity, and inclusion means, but also because diversity within your community can be a really great source of a volunteer labor pool that you may not have tapped into yet, that you may not have thought about. And so it can give you access to a whole new group of people that would be great to recruit for your organization. And diversity is really just the qualities that make individuals different, right? It can be age, it can be hair, it can be race, it can be gender, it can be all kinds of things, but those are just the individual things that are making up the diversity within an organization. But that's only one element of it. The real issue too is that you need to make sure you're bringing equity to your volunteer programs. So this is the difference between equality and equity. Oops, sorry. Equality is where everybody has the same. You treat everybody the same. In the first picture, there's a box and everybody gets one box because everybody gets the same thing. But not everybody needs the same thing. Sometimes people are fine without a box. They can come into your volunteer program and they don't need anything else. but sometimes somebody may need some accommodation. Somebody may need something different, and it could be somebody that has diverse abilities, and somebody that you want to, that could be an amazing program volunteer, that could fantastic literacy, but are they able to volunteer with you because they are in a wheelchair? Or are they able to volunteer with you because you have your readers? You know, like the good thing, somebody mentioned about the readers and the different levels and things. And those things are actually really cool for partially sighted people, or for people, because they are written bigger for kids too, right? So you don't have the same troubles that you might have with other people. But just thinking about equity and diversity in your volunteer pool, and looking for those opportunities, because sometimes we just go to the same pool of people that we know and understand and have worked with before, and we don't think about reaching out to another group that may require some accommodations initially to get them engaged with your program, but they can be amazing volunteers for it. So don't look at that, and don't forget about resources like that. And then when you have recruited people, think about inclusion and making sure that you're able to support them and that you hear them when they're talking to you. So inclusion goes beyond the diversity, which is more of a representation. Inclusion means that everybody feels they have a voice, that they feel they can be heard within your organization, and that they are empowered to make a difference and to speak up. So it recognizes people's worth, and no matter what their beliefs are, their ethnic backgrounds or talents, age, gender, and other unique traits. So when we have an inclusive space, then it allows for more engagement and retention of volunteers as well. The great thing about volunteer diversity is that you may not recognize, they're going to bring skills from different areas. And I think especially when we think about, I think about literacy so much in that way too, because different people have learned differently in different places. And so somebody may have a different way of bringing literacy to younger children or to older adults from a different place that we need to be able to hear. If somebody says, when I went through school, this is what I found effective for me, or this is how I can, what perspective I can bring. So that's really important too. So it creates a larger volunteer pool. It improves your community outreach, because it isn't the same old pool of people that you're going to. It isn't the usual suspects kind of people that you're reaching out to. You're really engaging somebody new, but you just have to recognize that you may have to shift a little bit how you find them and how you engage them in the work that you're doing. And it definitely fulfills your commitment to the to the organization. So recruiting them, again, it's like, where do you find them? Engaging your board of directors, it can be a great way to build recruitment as well. But again, what we've talked a lot about today is really focusing on that volunteer retention. And I believe you can retain and engage your volunteers better when you have higher expectations of them. You work with them to train them and orient them around it, and that you hold them up to meet those expectations. And then remove barriers to volunteering that others may be feeling and experiencing. Okay. Check a couple of other things that oops. It's about communication with your volunteer and thinking about how you share information with them, how often you do that. So making sure that regular and clear information is used with volunteers. And when you ask them for input, make sure you do hear it. It doesn't mean you have to implement everything a volunteer has said, but you have to make sure that you let them know that you heard it. And this is why it may not be possible. And that could be for reasons of conflict of interest, or it could be for reasons of confidentiality, or it could be all kinds of reasons. But you need to make sure that if you've asked for input, that you respond to the input and let them know that you heard them. And the reason you're not implementing it is because of X, Y, Z kind of thing. And if somebody is unhappy in the work that they're doing with you, then provide alternative ways for them to contribute. That includes either at your organization or another one, because that volunteer will go out into your community and they will talk. You know, volunteers love to talk. They love to talk to each other, and they love to talk to other people. And so if they don't have a good experience with you, then they will share that with others in the community. You are far better off encouraging them to find a new position, or to just be honest with them, to say, I think you're not very happy with your work right now. Can I help you, connect you to something else? Because they will remember that in a positive way, right? Letting somebody go from your volunteer pool isn't easy, and it's not. I still have somebody that's very mad at me. I'll be honest, and I wasn't successful in being able to frame it for her in a way that sat well with her. But I did try, and more often than not, I've been able to retain the relationship, even if I haven't been able to retain the volunteer. And that's what you ultimately want, right? Making sure you provide resources for volunteer health and wellness. Overloading volunteers, or when I say we, I mean people in nonprofit sector. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, here's a really great volunteer. They're so great. I'm going to give them this job, and then this job, and then that job, and then I'm going to ask for their family members to come, and then I'm going to give them new jobs. And we completely overwhelm the volunteer, and we're at risk of losing them then as well, because they feel over-asked, overextended. And we did that because they're so great. But if we keep it at a manageable thing, then we're better off retaining them for the long run. And communicating new plans and roles gently. So if you're going to change a volunteer's role, volunteers take ownership of their roles. If they're properly engaged, they take ownership of their roles. So if you need to shift because your organization has shifted, or your mandate has shifted slightly, or you need them to do it a different way, then you really need to think about how you approach that conversation with them, and try and engage them in a way that they see the perspective, and they see a way for themselves to either be able to shift to a different way of doing it, or to shift to a different position for it, maybe still within your organization. We had a program called Volunteer 55, which was about recruiting senior volunteers and encouraging them to participate. One of the thing that came back, and so we polled local organizations and volunteers, and 64% of them, the biggest value they got from their volunteer role was the verbal gratitude, was just being seen and recognized for what they did. 59% felt more supported by providing a variety of opportunities that require different skills. So that can be because people see, oh, and I just mentioned about overwhelming them with too many things. So don't go that far, but do give them some diversity and different work in your organization as well. And 34% of people felt more supported if they were offered technology training. And that technology can be computers and social platforms, but it can also be just tasks that are specific to your organization. Just thinking about those different readers or something within your organization that takes a special skill, make sure you take the time to teach them that skill and to hone that skill. If it's about doing ESL teaching, are you also offering opportunities for them to improve their skills as an ESL teacher? Are you bringing in learning opportunities for them to have like a lunch and learn or something about, or having a speaker come in and share with them about new ways of doing ESL teaching, anything like that? Because much like your own employees, you deserve, the volunteers also deserve professional development for their skills and for what they're bringing to the table. And again, don't feel like you're asking more time from them, because what you're doing is you're building their skills and giving them more of those wins that you want them to feel as a volunteer with your organization. Recognition. So what motivates your volunteers? Different people like different things. Some people do like tchotchkes. They like, I used to work with a Heart and Stroke Foundation, and we called it trinkets and trash, you know, all those little itty bitty things. And some are like, I do not want you to spend 1 penny. I work for free, and I do not want you to spend 1 penny on a t-shirt or a mug or a pen or anything like that. I want you just to say thank you. Hear them. Let them know that you've heard them, because the volunteers that see you spending money when they don't want it spent on them will not appreciate it. They will not. They will be upset with you. They'll get angry and angry about it. So ask them how they want to be recognized. Ask them for input. We had a conversation once we have a regular volunteer managers meeting, which actually I'll share that information with you, because the people from this group may want to join those conversations as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. We had this great conversation about an organization had been using pins for a long time. And so, like, at 5 years, you got this color pin. At 10 years, you got this color pin. And so volunteers were like marking the milestones for when they were going to get that pin. So then there was a whole shift within the organization, and they were going to do away with the pins. Oh no, how was it going to be dealt with? And so they had to go to their team. They had to go ask and communicate with their team and say, we're thinking about changing this part of this program. And because they had such high retention over the years, people were very much engaged in it. So, but because they were asking them about it, they said, okay, yeah, we can let go of the pins, but we still want to be able to be getting a certificate at different milestones for it, you know. So they still wanted to be able to have somebody recognize how many years they'd been there. They still wanted a little badge or certificate that they could hang in their house to acknowledge how many years they've been with the organization. And so anything that you shift in those things, you just need to make sure you're because you may think, oh, certificates don't matter. Like, don't give me a certificate. I'll just tell you that right now, because I have such a problem with certificates, because I feel like somebody's gone to the trouble of making this for me, but I don't want to hang it on my wall, and paper overwhelms me. So my desk is always a mess with too many papers on it. So just hear what your volunteer and recognize that there can be differences in it, and give them what they want, whether it's tea or coffee or it's learning and professional development. And ask them what they want to get out of their experience. So know what their win is going to be, and let them know it's okay that they get a win. And then checking in regularly just to make sure that their needs are being met is important for your retention as well. So this is from a 2013 survey in Volunteer Canada did, and it's that 80% of volunteers, so the top 2 ways they wanted to be recognized 80% wanted to know about how their work has made a difference. Even higher than saying thank you. Knowing that the work they were doing was making a difference to the community was the #1 payoff for volunteers. So make sure you're sharing that information with them. The flip side of it is when you know what difference they're making, you're also able to tell the board, you're also able to tell the community, and that can get you other benefits as well. So that's great. And this retaining volunteers is the same as employees. You're going to put a lot of effort in orientating, in training them, in building a relationship with them. Being able to have them around for a long time is of a benefit rather than just get them in, get them doing something, and then having them leave because they don't feel satisfied with the work that they're doing. And then, yeah, so we've talked about the retention through impact already. Does anybody want to share anything about how you do volunteer recognition? And we have just 15 minutes left to go. And I think we'll save social media for another time and maybe just go back to sharing with you and making sure I have answered questions that you have, or if you wanted to dig a little deeper in one of the questions. Does anybody have any?
Yes, I could give a simple comment from the point of view of volunteers.
Yes.
Because I'm volunteer. This recognition and thank you, etc., is really not to satisfy my ego, but rather to make sure that what I did is right and is accepted and is sold out to them. Not just to satisfy my egotism.
Yes, no, and I think you are going to be a lot like other people fared us in that way. The reason you want to hear the difference that you're making isn't to feed your ego, but it's to feel seen and to be to know you're making a difference in the world. Because that is a lot of the reason.
If I did the job right, or if I did the job not right, and how I should improve it so that the service is really effective and not a nuisance.
Yeah, and not a waste of time, right?
Right.
You're giving time, and you don't want to waste your time. So
and waste their time.
Sorry, go ahead.
And waste their time, waste the organization time and asset and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, very important. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. May I add a little bit about the sharing the recording, Zoom recording link and the resources. I don't think that I have everyone's email here. I would appreciate if you could send me an email so I can have your email address and forward the resources to you. I'm gonna share my email address into the chat box. If you I think I have most of the email addresses. I think I 2 or 3 of you. Yeah, I don't have 2 or 3 of your email addresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments or anything you wish to share? Yes.
Michiko,
right?
yes, that's right. Michiko is just wondering, the organization you mentioned out of Ontario, what's the name of it?
It's JVS Toronto.
JVS. Okay. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I've never heard of it before. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just had a slight little nosebleed starting up, but let me just see. I think we talked about evaluation and the importance of that. We talked about support for learning. And Kayla, for your readers. So we will, I'll check with Azar to see about another opportunity to do one specifically focused on ethics and boundaries and confidentiality.
Did we touch on recruiting? I don't.
Oh, recruiting, I left it really, I was just thinking about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you think about different volunteer pools, then so think outside the norm a little bit for it and start yes, that's one of the things. The other is social media, and or think about where are you going, what kind of volunteer are you looking at? So if you're looking at recruitment, think about who your ideal volunteer is, and then where are they looking for information and ways to get engaged. So if your volunteer is an older person, don't do social media campaign as a way to do it. But if you're looking and saying, you know what, I really want to engage younger people in my organization, then doing a good social media campaign can be really helpful. And can be a great way. But what you need to know about social media for sure is it is not a text heavy platform. It's pictures, it's videos, it's people. So that's what youth are responding to. So if you are wanting to recruit youth specifically, think about ways that you can use photo and video of young people and how they are making a difference within your organization, or how they could make a difference within your community. Yes, asking existing volunteers if they can recommend anyone. That is really great. It's especially volunteers that you know are good, because they tend to have really good friends that are good volunteers as well. So great. Any other
I was
questions?
just wondering, sorry, one more
Right.
little question about recruiting. Because I have just been posting on social media mostly and kind of word of mouth, but like printing out posters, is that something that's still, and hanging them?
Yeah.
Is that still effective, or?
Yeah, so we just last weekend we just had our volunteer fair, and one of the ways that on the surveys we asked how did they hear about it, and a lot of them heard about it through posters at coffee shops and wanted to get engaged because of that. So they came to the fair looking for volunteer opportunity because they'd seen posters at coffee shops and things. So yes, I think that's still a really good way. Word of mouth is really good. The schools are really great. They can share information out, but like many things, having the right advocate for you at a school can make all the difference. So having a meeting with the careers teacher so that they can promote the opportunity, that they're well aware of what that opportunity is with your organization, can go a long way, because the students go to the career teachers to ask, where am I going? And the career teachers will think, oh, you're wanting to study psychology, this is a good opportunity. You're wanting to be a teacher, this is a good opportunity for you to be engaged. So doing a targeted recruitment where you're really looking at the gatekeeper and engaging the gatekeeper in understanding what your organization needs are, because they're going to spread to their network then. Right, that's more efficient for you because you're just meeting with the one person, but the people that trust them to let them know, they're the ones that are going to be checking in with you then from there. Any other recruitment questions, Jody? No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, great. Super. Any other questions, or should I let you go on your merry way on a Thursday night? I think maybe you're good. Azar and I will connect then and see if there's anything else that you guys would need. I'll just stop recording